Hey guys, time to do some yard work. It's the end of August, so summer's winding up, unfortunately, and there's a lot of yard work to do today. It's been really dry this summer, but I've been trying to keep up with the watering. And what I also did is I've been really cutting back on the amount of lawn mowing I've been doing. So I haven't mowed the lawn at all in 2 weeks. And even before that, there's certain spots that have been having trouble growing because of how dry it's been. And I haven't mowed those in even longer. So right now the lawn is pretty tall and the edges are pretty tall, so it definitely needs mowing and weed whacking. So for the weed whacking, I actually borrowed my cousin's electric weed whacker.
Where the hell's my weed whacker?
I have not seen it.
I wanted to give that a try to see if it is suitable for me. I have a lot of weed whacking to do because it's a very big yard. So I don't know if the battery is going to have the capacity, but we'll see. If it runs out, no problem. I'll just switch to my regular gas one. For the lawn mowing, I'm switching to that old red lawnmower that I used last year that I was trying to fix up. That thing has been taken apart on the workbench all summer because I've been waiting for a new valve seal, which turns out doesn't exist anymore. So I just have to run it without it. But the machine's back together now and it runs, so I'm going to use that. Hopefully it runs really good and I can put it right on Craigslist as soon as I'm done with this yard work. All right, so I have to hurry because it might rain. But before we get to work, I need to show you two more things. First, let's go look at the mohawks. That's what I call the 2 strips of grass that I haven't mowed in months. There's one in the front here. And there's one out back right here. The rest of the lawn is so tall, it's actually kind of hard to tell, but there's definitely a strip of really tall grass. So originally I did those thinking maybe it will attract fireflies and maybe it will be interesting in some other way, but summer's almost over, the leaves are going to be falling soon, so today I'm going to mow away the 2 strips. The grass is really tall, it's going to be too tall to mulch, so what I'm going to do is put the chute on, and I'm going to do a pass up and down, blowing the clippings out to the side, and I'm going to do that first, and then I'm going to take the chute off and just mow the entire lawn, normally mulching. So that will be able to mulch up all the clippings, and I shouldn't have any trouble with clumping. All right, the other thing we need to look at real quick is the sunflowers. Look how tall they got. Can you believe that? These things are gigantic. I've had so much trouble trying to grow sunflowers last year and then the year before. And all of a sudden this year, they just grew like crazy. Look how tall they are. Even the ones I planted out front are starting to get pretty tall. And these ones got planted a month or so after the ones out back. Look how good they look. Hopefully these ones keep getting tall for the next month or so. But these ones out back. So the tallest one is just a little bit over 10 feet tall. Maybe 10 feet 3 inches, maybe 10 feet 6 inches, something like that. Depends on which way the wind's blowing. So the other ones are a little bit shorter. These are supposed to be able to get up to 18 feet tall. I don't know what you have to do to get them that tall, but I can't even imagine. They'd be unmanageable that tall. But this is great. I'm going to get a ton of sunflower seeds out of these, and I'm going to be able to do the same thing next year, hopefully with even more. All right, well, that's enough sightseeing. Time to get to work. All right, using the electric weed whacker was very interesting. I think I'll have a little bit more to say about that at the end of this video. But for now, time to mow the lawn. finished. Yard's looking pretty good. It was in very rough shape because I skipped a week mowing. I don't know if you can really tell the difference on camera, but in person it was very scruffy looking. It just looked like it had been neglected, which it had. And now it looks much better, especially the way back over here. That looks real good. The mohawks are gone front and back. They did not give me much trouble to mow. I hadn't mowed those 2 strips since I think beginning of summer, maybe even June. I'd have to go back and look. Definitely in July I stopped mowing them, and they just kept growing and growing, and it was pretty easy to mow. I used the red lawnmower for the most part today, but I did switch to the orange one a few times. The orange one is self-propelled, so it's easier, and it also has more suction, so it was a little better at sucking up the maple tree seeds over by one of my maple trees. So I just quickly switched to that, and then I switched back. And it's getting dark out already. It's kind of hard to see. Unfortunately, that's how it goes at the end of summer. So if you want to hang on for a minute, I'll go inside and talk about what I think about the electric weed whacker. Next month's yard work video will be the end of September, so the leaves will be starting to fall, but they shouldn't be too bad yet. All right, stay tuned for the weed whacker review, and otherwise, I'll see you guys later. All right, so the one on the left is the electric battery-powered Ego trimmer, and the one on the right is my Husqvarna gas-powered trimmer. Don't think of this as a specific review of the Ego. Think of it more as a review of the concept of a battery-powered weed whacker. So both of these weed whackers have their own pluses and minuses. The electric one thing that's good about it is that it's quiet. Now my neighbors probably like that because the gas one is extremely loud. But the battery-powered one is still loud enough that I needed to put my headphones on to block the sound. I was hoping it was going to be so quiet that I could just walk around normal with it, but it was pretty loud still. Now the battery one is my cousin's, and he let me borrow it to do this test. I didn't do this when he first bought it. I waited 2 years, so that machine is 2 years old, which means the battery has 2 years of use on it. I wanted to make sure that it could not only have enough power to do my whole yard when it was brand new, but even once it was a few years old, it would still have enough power. And it did pretty good. I charged it fully the night before, and I did my entire yard, all my edging, all my trimming. I have a pretty big yard for the suburbs, and it did the whole thing pretty well. This is the battery indicator, and it still has 2 out of 5 bars, which is, I assume, around 40% of the battery capacity left. So yeah, it really gets the job done. I would say the 2 biggest benefits are the fact that I'm not choking on the exhaust the whole time I'm using it. The gas one is very smoky. It's a 2-cycle engine, so it puts out a lot of smoke. And the other thing is I really like how with the electric one, you just pull the trigger, it just instantly goes. You don't have to always pull the cord to restart it every time you stop. And because I'm filming, I have to stop a lot to move the camera and then go start again. It's really a pain. So for that, the electric is pretty good. Now the biggest strength of the gas one, as you might have guessed, is the power. It has way more power than the electric. Now, do I need that much power? I actually don't to do my yard. When I'm using the gas one, I usually don't even pull the trigger all the way because it's too powerful. However, if my yard was still rough like it was when I bought this house, or, there's been times I've done videos where I've weed whacked my grandmother's backyard or my cousin's backyard when it was abandoned for a few months. And if you're weed whacking really tall, rough stuff that's been growing for months or years, the electric one's gonna really struggle, whereas the gas one just tears through it all. But again, I don't have any of those anymore, so why am I keeping the gas one around? And the other benefit to this gas one in particular is that it can take attachments. So I have a pole saw attachment, which is just a miniature chainsaw I can put on there instead of the weed whacker. So I can put the saw attachment on there and cut tall branches and trees if I need to, and that's useful. This electric one specifically does not take attachments, but they do make some others that do take attachments. Now going back to the fuel issue, I have 2 machines that take 2-cycle oil gas mix. This weed whacker and my old leaf blower. That leaf blower is on borrowed time. I rescued that leaf blower out of my mother's shed where it had been sitting unused for 10 years or more. So I'm surprised it runs so well. I figure it's probably gonna die one of these days. So if I needed a weed whacker and a leaf blower at the same time, it really might make more sense to go with an electric one because I'd be able to pop this battery out, pop the battery in the leaf blower, and then use that real quick and then put it back. So then I wouldn't need any gas oil mix, which would make my life a lot easier because you have to mix out the right amount of oil. Then you have to go to the gas station and pump exactly a gallon in there so that the ratio stays correct. So it's kind of a pain. Because the leaf blower is working so good right now, and because this trimmer, my gas trimmer, just works perfect. I bought that new and I've been taking good care of it, and it just runs like it's brand new. So I'm not really in the market for any new machinery right now. So I probably won't switch anytime soon. But if I was in the market, I don't know, I might go with these electric ones. I would want one that can take attachments because I would want to still have access to the pole saw. Plus there are other attachments that are made that could be useful down the road. My cousin was telling me that he wished he got one that took attachments because he could really use a hedge trimmer attachment. He has a lot of hedges. I have no hedges, so I don't have that particular need, but who knows what kind of attachments they might come up with or what needs you might have in the future. So it would be good to have that feature. So there's my review, not of this specific model, but just in general. I think it's worthwhile to consider a battery-powered electric weed whacker. I think this would serve me well for a bunch of years. Next time I need one, I'll definitely consider it. I think my yard is still a little too big to consider an electric lawnmower at this point. Not until the battery capacity gets a little better than it is now. Plus I also bought my lawnmower new, and I've been taking care of that really well, and it has a Honda engine. So that's probably also going to last me another 10 or 20 years. So it's going to be a while till I'm in the market for a new lawnmower also. But lawnmowers are 4-cycle engines, so they're a lot cleaner than these 2-cycle small gas engines are. So it's not as bad. They're quieter too. All right, that's all for this video. I think I'll leave you with a clip of floodwaters raging down the stream after the downpour. That looked pretty cool. All right, see you guys later.